Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mind of a Fighter. I'm very honoured that today's episode has one of the top pioneers for Australian MMA, Jake Mathews. How are you, Jake?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Now today, I'm just going to play it as we speak over it. Today we got your fight up against Diego Sanchez. Now, I just want to start by asking this. You coming up within the Australian MMA scene, I mean, when you were a lot more younger, what was that like? Because it was a lot more different to what us amateurs now have as like an opportunity to fight on the good shows in cages. What was it like for you back then?
Yeah, oh man, you guys don't understand how good you have it as amateur fighters now. You guys got the cage, the crowd. So you get the experience of fighting in a pro show pretty much. Okay. We were fighting in like a shed in Lilydale. Yeah. We were like sideshows on a boxing card. There was no legitimate amateur circuit at all. We just get fights wherever we can. It'd always be on a kickboxing card, and you just be that odd one MMA fight.
Really?
And you get booed because like you take someone down, and it's boring for all the kickboxing fans when you're on the floor. And yeah, so it's completely different. It's come so far, but it's good though. I mean, you guys get the experience. I see the part the Hex fights, for example, and it's pretty much like a pro fight.
Yeah.
It's just obviously the classification of the bout is the difference. Everything else is the same. Like when I'm there, I feel like I'm in a pro event.
Yeah.
So you guys, it won't be as a big of a shock to go to a pro event for you.
So it's got like a lot of similar resemblance in that sense, you're saying?
Absolutely. You know, we didn't have walkout music. You know, they call your name. You wouldn't even know who you're fighting. They call your name. You go into the ring, and you could have 2-3 fights in one day. And you don't know who you're fighting till you're in the ring, and he could be 10 kilos bigger. You could be bigger. You just don't know. They'd match you up as close to weight as they can, and it was fun though. You had no idea what to expect. You could take the guy down, and he turns out to be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. It was just it was cool. It was the old school days. Even though I'm still young, it was the old school days of MMA.
How old were you when you were starting to compete in that scene?
16. Had my first amateur fight.
16.
So 16, and then I had 10 amateur fights.
In MMA?
All MMA, yep. Like for example, one night, so the night before we were fighting, they called me up, said your fight's been cancelled because the guy pulled out. Really? And yeah, and I was like so shattered, and they go, we've got a Muay Thai fight. And I was like, yeah, sweet, let's just do that. So I just went and had a Muay Thai fight instead. That's it. So that's how it was back then. It was really hard to get fights, and especially when I went 10-0 undefeated, and I pretty much couldn't get any fights anymore. So
were you traveling interstate for your fights or not?
No, I had them all in Melbourne. Yeah, and I did have one pro fight before I was 18, which got in trouble for, but that's another story. But then once I turned 18, went pro, and yeah, put a good run together. Got in the Ultimate Fighter, and then eventually got into the UFC from there.
What was the Ultimate Fighter like, if you don't mind me asking?
It was good. I mean, as a young kid, 18-year-old, no commitments at home, no kids, no mortgage, no house. Still lived with my parents. It was awesome. Doing it now today with kids, it'd be a lot harder. Respect to the guys that had kids that were away for, I think we're away for 9 weeks all up. So, yeah. But I loved it. It was took a bit of getting used to the cameras being in your face, but after the first week, I didn't really notice them. Yeah. And yeah, we just trained twice a day. Fought, had fun, had a laugh. The Canadian guys were really good. We all got along pretty well, so it was enjoyable.
Like when you train here, you obviously got your normal coaches, but when you train over there, you're under different coaches and all, right?
In the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah. Yeah. What's that like? Because obviously it's a different atmosphere. You don't have that relationship with them. Yeah. Well,
it was a shock having different coaches. So you're only with them for a short period of time, really. So they don't really know your game exactly. So to fight with different coaches was a shock. The biggest shock was fighting without a crowd. It was so quiet because you're fighting there and it's just your teammates. So that was a really big shock to get used to that. But I guess I've done it now, and because they're doing the fights in the Apex because of COVID and whatnot. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of fighters are doing that now.
Do you relate what it was like in the Ultimate Fighter to what it's like fighting now in the Apex or in the UFC now? Because there's no crowd, obviously.
Yeah. They're starting to get crowds back now, but like I was saying, it's I had a little bit of experience fighting without any crowds because it is weird. It's different. It's very quiet. You can hear your own breathing. You can hear everything in punch land. Whereas normally you got this big stadium yelling, and you can barely hear anything. So, yeah. But it's good to get used to both because who knows what the future is going to be like.
When you're performing in the UFC and there's a big arena, lots of people. Now, in the venues in Melbourne, the venues are pretty small, but that's a big venue. Can you hear your corner when you're in the round and you're in the fight? Like, for example, against Diego Sanchez. In this instance, obviously, there's no crowd, but can you hear your corner when there's a lot of people like that?
I've always been good at singling out my coach's voice. Even with a big crowd and the crowd screaming, I've always, if you ask me after the fight, it's almost as if there's no crowd for me anyway. I block out. I can't see outside the octagon. It's like there's a big curtain around the octagon. I can't see out and I can't hear anything. All I can hear is my coach's voice. And I think that comes with training with your coaches for so long. You become used to their voice, and you can pick it out even amongst all the noise. The only one time was probably at Etihad when there was about 60-odd thousand fans. So the first time I had it at Etihad with Ronda Rousey, that my coaches ended up giving up because they just couldn't get their voice to reach me. I couldn't hear them over the crowd. Yeah.
Did they ask you in between round, can you hear me or stuff like that, or?
Not from memory. I can't remember because I got kicked in the head and I can't remember that fight at all. Still won, but they just made sure they got their point across in between rounds of what I needed to do in that round, and it worked out and did well. But they ended up they sort of just said we didn't even bother. Wow. It was so loud. Yeah, you could feel like the air was like vibrating from the crowd cheering. That's how it was. It was weird.
When you're in there.
Yeah, you can just as soon as the crowd roars, the whole place was just shaking.
What's that like? I'm going to relate it to the Etihad because that's such a big venue, and I was there personally, but I was at the back end of the stadium. What's that like as you walk into the octagon and you're present in the ring, and that atmosphere is like that? What's that like?
Like I said, even walking out, I don't see anyone's faces. I'm just.
But you feel it, don't you? The energy.
Not really. I zone out from the crowd, so I take it all in after. You know what I mean? So like I've high-fived my mum walking out before, and I don't even know because everyone's faces are just blank. No one's got faces. It's weird, and it's just very dark, and I can just see the walkway to the octagon. And when I get in the octagon, there's like nothing outside the octagon.
Okay.
And then the noise. I can never remember hearing a crowd or seeing out into the crowd, especially fighting at home. You know, my friends are like, "Oh, we're right in front," so I didn't see it.
You didn't see them.
The times where I have heard the crowd and I have seen them, the times where I lose and not switched on. So I think when I'm in the zone, then that's when when everything goes quiet and I can't see anything outside the octagon, that's when I know I'm zoned in.
Fair enough. Now, how do you get into the zone? How does Jake get into the zone in his fights?
It just happens naturally. There's nothing. I don't have a song that I listen to. I don't talk to myself, tell myself anything. I warm up, and then before you walk out, they bring you and they tell you to step on this X, and then that's the point where it just kicks in naturally. I think I've done it for so long, had so many fights now. It's just something that just happens.
Comes naturally to you.
Yeah. I mean, I played high-level football for 9 years before I started fighting, and so even from that, I think playing in front of decent crowds, having a lot on the line in those games, playing big games, grand finals for representative teams. I got used to just being able to switch it on.
Hell yeah. Now, what was it like fighting a legend like Diego Sanchez? I'm assuming that when you were younger, you see him in the UFC as you're competing. Obviously, he's making his name, and now you get to fight against him. What was that like? Yeah,
it was surreal. I mean, it didn't sink in until like weeks after the fight. When they gave me the name, I didn't believe it at first that I was going to be fighting Diego. I was 11 years old when I watched him win the Ultimate Fighter.
Okay.
So it was good. It was honestly like the first time being nervous for a fight, pretty much ever. I think
against him.
It was and it was just one of those things you don't want to lose to you want to get that name on your record. Yeah, that's what I wanted. So and you can see it in my performance. It was a bit more calculated than usual. I just didn't want to do anything stupid and get caught, because you can really, getting a guy like that on your record, that's like forever. I'll be one of the guys who beat Diego Sanchez. Yeah. So I'll put a lot of pressure on myself for this fight. But the game plan we worked sort of fell into place well.
He's doing some weird tacky stuff with his hands. Did that make you think anything different in the fight when you're fighting? Because I've watched the fight in a few rounds, but he's doing some weird stuff with his hands. Did it make you hesitate?
It does throw you off because you feel like he's just going to throw something you've never seen before. And so it does keep you on your feet and make you think twice about certain things. But like I said, I stick to the game plan. We knew he was going to try and push him forward as he always does. and we just wanted to, sit on the back foot, throw those nice, sharp, straight rights, a lot of uppercuts, which did well. This last round when I put him on his bum, probably could have finished him off.
What's
but again,
that like? Did you want to not jump the gun, but did you want to try and finish it there, or did you kind of
I did, with a couple of minutes left in the fight, because when we hit the ground, you can just tell by someone's sort of
body
head movement
language,
how good they are on the ground, and he is very good. From what I felt when I was on top, like from the outside, people said, "Oh, you had that fight finished," and I probably could have pushed the pace and finished it, but there's always that risk. Someone he was a black belt when I was 11.
Okay, yeah.
So he's been a black belt for so many years. Yeah. And I could feel it on the ground. So for the sake of a couple of minutes left in the fight, I just sort of composed myself, and just made sure I got that name on the list.
Does that come to experience, you reckon? Like, I'm just throwing it out there, like having a bunch of kickboxing fights, a bunch of amateur MMA fights. Do you reckon that composure and everything like that comes from having that experience?
Absolutely. You need to know when to hit the brakes. That's what we say. So you need to know when to hit the brakes. Some guy, fans obviously like us that go out and just swing wild, but when
put on a show,
maybe it's different when you've got kids and a family and this is your primary source of income. Sometimes you need to be a little bit smart. We get paid double if we win, so it's a lot of money to put on the line just to stand there and swing and make the crowd happy. So sometimes you gotta know when to hit the brakes, be calculated, be smart, and at the end of the day, it's about getting the win. Yeah.
Would you say like your mentality's changed as opposed to before you had kids and whatnot and you were fighting to now that you got kids and you have fighting?
It has probably in two ways, in two opposite ways. I mean, you want to make sure you win fights so you can provide for your kids and give them their best life possible.
Yep.
But at the same time, it takes a lot of the pressure off, because when you have kids fighting, even though fighting UFC is great and you want to have a big career, fighting is this big in the whole grand scheme of life. Fighting's tiny. It's nothing. And I think having kids, for me, that takes pressure off me. Win or lose, I go home with my kids at the end of the day. That's the most important thing. So, and I just think about that before I'm walking out. I just think about that. I'm going home with my kids.
That's your biggest motivator, right?
Yeah, I mean, motivator, and it takes all the pressure off at the same time. It's weird. It's a bit contradicting, but I fight best when I have no pressure. When I know I can go home, I still got a great life, got the family at home, got the kids at home. I feel relaxed, no pressure.
Now, I'm going to ask you this. What's one thing or one moment from this fight that stands out to you, whether it's funny, something weird that happened, one moment that stands out within this fight, whether it's the camp, during or after the fight that you can share with us?
One thing from
or something that surprised you, even.
Something that surprised me, the toughness. Yeah, I thought I'd maybe. I mean, he's always been tough, but I mean, if you look at the state of him towards the end of this round, he was very tough. But I think the biggest thing for me was this is one of the first fights where I really tried to be calculated and smart. And one of the things, I didn't land it, but I was proud of it, was that in the first round, I threw a long left-right, and I saw his head dip down to the left, and then I went to set up the right kick. I was a little bit too close, so I sort of got him with my knee first. But man, I reckon and like I said, I didn't land it properly, but I was proud, because if you watch my fights, it's just a lot of aggression, viciousness, pretty much. So in this fight, I started setting things up. I started baiting him in. I started working uppercuts. I knew I was going to land something before I was going to land it. Yeah. And all my fights before, it's not like that. It's just a big blur of just trying to fight and just punch him as much as I can. Whereas this fight, I'm going to throw some jabs. I know he's going to push in hard. I'm going to step back. I'm going to throw an uppercut.
I'm going to cut you off. I want you to tell us and walk us through this 10 seconds right here. Cause
the knee?
Yeah. I want you to walk us what went through your head as this happens.
As soon as he did it, I was just like, he's just trying to do the Masvidal thing.
But it was a pretty shit version of a Masvidal, bro.
It's like people said, I sort of, I don't know what he's doing, so I wave him out, and he threw it. I was just, and then as soon as he did it, I said, I should have just thrown a massive overhand right.
Did you like look at him and be like, come on, bro?
No, in my head, I'm just like, he's trying to do the Masvidal thing.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of like when you order something off Wish and it doesn't really, it's not really what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I was expecting something like that. I knew he was either going to come out and try to be calculated, which I think he tried to do that in this fight. He wanted to try and be calculated, and he had this thing he said before. He said he wants to do to me what BJ Penn did to him. And BJ just went out and swarmed him, and this is the part where I, obviously could have pushed the pace and finished it. I sort of fell into a half guard, and then I felt from here. I was like, man,
was
this
he just trying to hold on
dangerous.
to you here?
He's trying to hold on to me, and he's moving his hips, trying to set things up. And man, I just like, this guy's good on the ground. I don't think people realise. I think if even at this stage in his career, if he started taking more people down, he would have been winning most of his fights. For sure.
Because he's always known for his toughness and all that with most of his fights. I personally didn't even know his ground game was that good.
I think he knows what the crowd wants. They want that Diego Sanchez that comes out and swings.
Gives the crowd what they want.
And like I said, you got to wait up. Maybe if he had taken people down, he could have won a lot more fights later in his career. But he wants to go out and make the crowd happy and try and swing. So, but definitely great. You can see I was taking a bit hesitant because I'm just like, man, this guy's good.
Yeah, he may throw something off that you don't expect or whatnot.
Yeah.
Now, when you're 2 rounds up right now, when you're into the 3rd round like this, do you want to take it? Obviously, you're being very cautious and whatnot in this fight, but do you take it more cautious, or do you be like, nah, I still got to fight as if it's the 1st and 2nd round? I still got to put the pressure on.
You still got to put, like I said, it's got to be calculated pressure, I guess what you could say. You have to put enough pressure, because if you let them off too much, they can catch you. But if you go too reckless, they can catch you as well. So here, if I, you can see his hip movement and the angles he's cutting. If I try to, go really heavy on the ground and pound, he could have potentially caught something. So you can see the way he's moving underneath me there. He's very, very good.
Tricky.
And it, and that's the first time we really had a good exchange on the ground. And so I hadn't felt it before that.
Do you want it to stand up at this point?
I was happy either way. I think my coaches were, sort of would have been happy either way if I waved him up back on the feet. No doubt I could have knocked him out again. But I mean, like I said, there's 2 minutes left. You got to weigh it up. There's always a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
On the ground in this situation, I'm on top. I'm in control. There's a lot better chance I'm going to be able to control him for 2 minutes and get the win. I could wave him up and he could have swung a big haymaker and knocked me out just as easily. There's always a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm talking about. You got to weigh it up. Sometimes the crowd might pump you up a little bit and you just want to go out and slog, but
has that happened to you before?
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I mean, even with a fight with Li Jingliang in Perth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like that, like I was 2 rounds up, I knew I was winning, but man, I just kept going out. I was a little bit dirty on him for the eye gouge.
Yeah.
But like even here, you can see his hip movement's very, very
he's trying to attack constantly.
I never felt anyone move like that in the UFC.
Out of all your opponents, was this at welterweight as well?
This is at welterweight, yeah.
Yeah. Out of all your opponents and all that, did you feel the most trickiest with the grappling exchanges?
Yeah, I haven't felt someone that like pure jiu-jitsu. There's guys who are really good at getting up and they're explosive and it's hard to hold them down. And there's guys who are on top and they don't do much. They sort of get like wet blanket, hold you tight. Whereas he was like, he copped a lot of punishment doing it that way, but he was pure jiu-jitsu. I mean, look there, he's going for that armbar. I had my elbow.
Even though you were bloody and sweaty, you didn't feel like you could slip it out? Obviously your elbow's below.
Normally, yes, my elbow's already out. So, but he had a good grip on that wrist. Like I said, I could try and rip it out, and he might. He's waiting for that. He's very smart. Yeah. And you can feel that. And this, like I said, it was pure jiu-jitsu. You take a lot of punishment that way because he's not trying to defend. Yeah, if I'd have been too reckless, he could have easily caught me with something.
Yeah.
At the start, I took him down, and he jumped straight on trying to go for a leg lock. I ended up defending well and gave him a couple of good strikes. And I heard the clacker, and I thought I was going to you hear the clacker, and I knew even if he got something, I wasn't going to tap. So, and then I was just throw. And when the bell went, man, it was just like...
That would have felt good.
It was good, yeah.
Is it... I want to ask you this, because I'm hearing this a lot with some of the fighters. Is it like a sense of relief after you're done?
Yeah.
What's
It's relief that you won, but sometimes, like, you get sad because... with that fight, it was probably pure relief, just because the name that I got the win over. But some other fights, man. Like you just want to fight more. Like you're a bit sad that it's over. Like you're having fun, and there was a fight. The fight before this was Eddie had, and then again that was. Adesanya, Rob Whittaker, yeah. So I fought a guy named Rustam Akman, and I mean again that was a technical fight. Some stuff going on outside of fighting that just sort of I just wanted to just do whatever I had to do to get the win. But yeah, but like that fight, I was having a lot of fun in that fight because that was the first one I really purely just wanted to try and stand up and work things that were working in training camp, and it was working well. I just wanted to keep going, and the last round ended, and I was like, I think maybe it's a sense that you felt that you had more in you, and you could have done more, and you want to like go back out there and try and do it.
Yeah.
So there's always that hindsight. I think there's very few fights that you feel like you did it 100%. You gave 100%, and you did everything you could do to try and win the fight. Like Li Jingliang fight was one of them. Obviously, fights when you finish fights is good, but when you go the distance, there's always that little like, oh man, we should go back out there. There's some things that now the fight's finished. Now I see I could have done.
Yeah. Now, one of my last questions, actually the second last question, is there any advice you can give to young individuals like me or other individuals that are watching this video right now that are amateurs within the MMA scene and want to get to where you are?
Yeah, man. Like, I did it, so I know. The benefit is have as many amateur fights as you can. Like get the experience. I know guys that should be champs, and they just wanted to jump into the pro scene straight away. And in training, absolute animals. Like, I won't have any names, but one guy in particular, he throws Australian champions around like they're nothing. When it comes to the fight, he can't pull the trigger. Too much pressure on himself.
Is that due to lack of experience, you reckon?
I think so, yeah. You don't want to be trying to learn on the job as a pro. You want to get that experience, win, lose or draw, it doesn't matter as an amateur. Just go in there, get as much experience the crowd, experience, having adversity in the fight, having to fight your way out. And like I said, amateur record means nothing. Like, go have kickboxing fights, go do jiu-jitsu competitions. I got probably hundreds of jiu-jitsu medals at home from the other competitions I did.
You did some as you were pro as well, yeah?
I've done a few as I was pro, yeah. Don't really risk injuries. Like every time I did one, I ended up getting injured a little bit. So, but man, just get the experience. Doesn't matter what it is. Go to a kickbox. Even if you're not that great at stand-up, go to a kickboxing fight. Get beaten up, lose a fight. Doesn't matter. It's an amateur fight. Everything you're doing is to aid you in your pro career, so you can do the best that you can. So in terms of that, like extensive amateur career is very important. Like I had 10 amateur fights, went 10-0, and then when I went pro, it was just like I was going in for another fight.
Okay.
It wasn't a shock to me, So that, and just you got to surround yourself with the best people you can, people that are on the same path. You know what I mean? So. They're the two things I'd suggest.
Oh yeah, awesome. Now, what do you do after your fights? When you win, for example, do you like to go party? Do you like to go hit the clubs or whatnot? Or do you like to take a chill one with the family? Sit back in the team?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously got a quarantine and stuff now for fights. Normally, I mean, before the fight, you probably, like in your mind, a few times be like, oh man, we're gonna go out here. I've booked a place, we're gonna go out and party, and then like. I'm in bed by like 10, bro. It's just the adrenaline dump is you're so tired. Like I just want like a bag of Doritos, lay in bed, watch a movie. If the family's with me, just chill with the family. If the family's not, I'll just video call home. Just sit on Instagram and look through all the things you're getting tagged in. And I think a lot of fighters are like that. We've had a few times we've gone out and party, especially when you're with a team. It's good. But most of my fights, like I never had a team, until I joined up with Resilience. But sometimes you go and fight on your own. You have your fight, you get back to your room, chill out, eat. That's about it. And then you just can't wait to get on the plane the next day and go home. Yeah. So I'm pretty relaxed that way. Some guys go out and they party all night long, but I just want to go and sleep. Like just the adrenaline dump for me, and you don't feel recovered for at least 2 weeks.
Wow, 2 weeks.
Tired. Yeah, it's that much. Yeah.
So do you take like 2 weeks off and then you go back into training slowly and then back into camp slowly?
Yeah, ordinarily I'd used to probably take 2 weeks off training. I might get back within a week and do a little bit here and there, but you just feel, you just zapped. you just zap of energy, you know what I mean? So, because especially fighting in front of the crowds, maybe not so much at the Apex actually, you know, but just the excitement from the crowd and the cheering and the adrenaline rush, it's just, it's tiring up.
Now, you got a fight coming up soon. Do you mind telling us when that is and who it is against, please?
Yeah, so it'll be December 5th in Australia, in Las Vegas, and it's going to be against Jeremiah Wells. You know, strong guy, new to the UFC, but I mean, if you're in the UFC, you're dangerous. So we're doing everything we can to get ready for that. And yeah, man, we go fight, and then it's sort of the holiday season, so it's be home chilling with the family.
Oh yeah. Now my last thing as well, you got the charity thing going on for yourself. Do you mind telling the camera, because I've got a few individuals in my area that would love to help out for this cause?
Yeah, awesome. So my friend Dennis runs something called Thursday Friends. We do it at Queen Vic Market every Thursday, so we go along, take any donations we can gather. So anyone who's got any donations they'd like, no money. We just want the items. We want the items to go directly to the people that need it. So if you've got anything, you can, message myself, message Khan, let us know. I'll come pick it up, and then we take it on Thursday nights. We feed the less fortunate, give them clothes, toiletries, anything we can gather, and it's good, man. It makes you feel good about yourself, and you can see firsthand that you're helping people.
Awesome, Jake. Well, guys, that's been Inside the Mind of a Fighter, Jake Mathews edition. Like he said, he's got his fight coming up on December 5th. Make sure you pay attention. You don't want to miss it. Other than that, hope you enjoyed.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Cheers.